Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the
right.
title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
But
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious. Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And this time, Mike, be very quiet. Do you hear that?
Nope.
That's Indiana. It's all around me.
Yeah, I was wondering any noise.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could probably, if you were here, you could probably smell the Indiana all over me too. But to all I'm going to say our Indiana friends, because we not only have family, but people we know that listen here in Indiana. That's just a joke. I'm happy to be here. I'm here for a good reason. So, but yeah, just sitting here in Indiana. Never thought I'd say that. Coming live from Indiana. Valpro, as we call it too, right?
Right.
Yeah, we won't tell that story. Well, maybe we will in a minute. We got plenty of time to tell that one, but yeah. So did you end up having to work today? I mean, I had a fucking week from hell, but I'm not going to go through that. Just assume that I'm unhappy with my job situation unless I tell you. That's easy enough.
It is. Yeah. No, I did not work today.
Okay, well, cool. Oh yeah, actually, I saw on Facebook you went to a movie though, didn't you?
I took my granddaughter to see the Minions movie.
Oh, very nice.
In 3 dimensions.
I saw that too. Didn't you say like coming at you at the screen or whatever you said?
It was pretty cool, actually. I haven't seen a modern 3D movie, so yeah, it was kind of cool.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sure you remember years ago with what was the red and blue glasses that you'd have to take into. What did Jaws 3 was 3D, wasn't it?
I believe it was. I never saw that one in 3D. I have seen the creature from Black Lagoon in 3D.
Yeah, I think there was a time frame when that was definitely the thing, but I don't know if I ever did, but well, that's cool. Time with the grandkids, that's always a good thing. So
absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so let's go through the stats real quick. A little bit, kind of like last week, a little bit of a slow week, but once again, summertime. People are, I'm sure, out and about and enjoying their best lives.
Right.
But so our followers, we were up 52 to 1,267 followers on Instagram.
Nice.
Plays on the podcast up 78 to 1,198. We missed that 1,200 mark by 2. I actually posted it this morning. We had, I think, only 1 play since this morning. I was trying to figure if we can get 3 more people to, just pop into any episode today. We would have hit the 1,200 mark, but I'm sure we will. But top episodes, I think, are the same as they were last week. Just went up a little bit. Your episode number 3 is at the number 1 slot. Episode 13 is number 2. Episode 1, which is my story, is number 3. Episode 10, once again, the vodka bottle episode, is at number 4. And rounding out the top 5, as always, is our first 30 days, which is episode 4. And speaking of consistency, it's just the female split and men's split again. 56% for the female side of things, and then 40% for men. So yeah, I think that's been the same for the last couple of weeks. But so apparently we're growing equally. Yeah, either appealing to or pissing off an equal number of people. So, I have to tell you too. There's I'll talk a little bit about the merchandise and stuff like that in a minute. But there's one individual. First of all, one of our followers. She's very cool. Had some conversations back and forth. She also just ordered one of the new T-shirts. So thank you for that, and for all the people that have ordered stuff. But I put a post up earlier saying, typical thing. Hey, Friday, new episode coming soon. And she had posted on there with like 4 fire emojis, and I commented. And I'm like, 4 fire emojis, man. That seems like a lot of pressure. Like we actually have to be good or something.
Once again, disappointing the ladies.
I know, exactly. Yeah, just we're used to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, yeah, it's time to step it up in this bitch or whatever she said. And I'm like, you know what? I said, now I'm going to tell Mike we have to tank it because we were told that we have to do well.
That's right.
I said we're just. What's that? You cut out a little bit.
I said, don't ever tell us we have to do something. We will do the exact opposite. We are real alcoholics.
Exactly. Yeah, I told her we were going to just sit there with just record an hour of silence. But yeah,
sounds of Indiana.
Yeah, you know what? If you just cut out again, I heard the Indiana part. That's all I heard.
I said the stirring sounds of Indiana.
That is absolutely correct. Indiana is stirring. All right, so just a couple of things that I want to keep talking about this on obviously on a weekly basis. Opportunities to support the podcast, easiest way and free way. Just get on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating if you guys are liking what you're hearing. Even if you're partially enjoying, or maybe at least if it's not you're not hating what you're hearing, give us a 5-star rating. Mm-hmm. It does help to push that up in the ranks. So again, when people are looking for sober podcasts, we can be pushed towards the top. Hopefully people get to listen to this and makes this a little bit more visible. We do have still the donate tab, which is the buy us a coffee thing. That link is in our highlights on our Instagram page, also in a tab on our website, or we've been adding a lot more things to the web store. We've got new tank tops, new T-shirts, again, phone cases. We've gotten a little bit of activity on that. We had 2 people just recently that I had posted yesterday that just got T-shirts recently. I know 2 more people that just ordered T-shirts also recently. So we're getting a little bit of activity there. Cool. We did have, and we have the ability to set up promo codes, so we can do that. But, once again, the profit that's on any of the merchandise is not a lot. But what it's going to help to do, and the number one thing that we want to do, and I know I keep saying this, but we talked about upgrading the service that we're using. And Anchor's fine, but I mean, you guys hear every once in a while, it's like it's almost sometimes like being on a bad phone call.
Right.
Because what happens is that even though Mike and I work with this so that we've kind of figured out the best mix on both sides about what works, whether I have my Wi-Fi on or not, and it's that, we still get that interruption. And every once in a while, I think Mike cuts out, but it's not necessarily on his end. It's how it's being recorded. But the new service will allow us to record a little bit differently, and we want to start having other people on the podcast. So that's what if we gain any money from the website or anything like that, or from the web store, that's what we plan on doing. So yeah, but the main way, the free way to do it is by all means rate us on these either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It's just a great free way to stay interactive and get involved. So we appreciate everyone that's listening and following, and just thank you guys all. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so first of all, anything that like popped up on your mind? I got a handful of things that kind of popped up, but questions, or a couple of people submitted some questions, but a couple of other things popped into my head. But anything that came up with you this week, or anything you want to talk about specifically before we jump into some of these?
Not specifically. Nah, let's just jump into this and see where we go.
Okay, so this one was an interesting one. So 2 things. I heard a story about this on the podcast that I listened to, but also about a week or so ago, maybe even 2, we just didn't get to this question, but it was a question from one of our followers, and it was the idea of using being sober, like alcohol free, but using medical marijuana that is prescribed. Okay. So I'll be honest with you. I have zero experience with whether it's legal or illegal.
Right.
You know, I'm not a pothead fucker.
Right. You guys that don't know, Bill is a very rare bird. He has never done any drugs. He was purely alcohol. Trust me, I call him a weirdo when it comes to that all the time.
Well, you know what? I pick one thing and I do it really fucking well. So, you know, but yeah, so I mean, I don't have experience with that. You know, even with in years ago, just from, and this has nothing to do with why I never did any drugs. I would have gotten to that point. I know I would have, because
Sure.
I was drinking so much at the end, and I became cognizant of the fact that I did smell like booze like all the freaking time. You know, the idea of taking pills came to mind, and I did take.
Sure.
I was having panic attacks at one time when I was going through my second divorce, basically anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and they gave me, I don't even know what the hell it was, but man, it messed me up. You could take these pills, and I don't know if it would have been, does Adderall sound right? A little white pill?
You know that I don't know. Most of my stuff came in powder form.
Right, and from a dude in a trench coat, right?
Exactly.
But so they gave me this prescription, and I know, obviously I know what it was now. It's drinking a lot, number one, but going through all the stuff, I didn't know how to handle stress, and you know, drinking a ton didn't help, obviously. But when I took those, I would take one pill, and it was prescribed to take like 3 a day or something like that. And just one, it was, I remember this like overwhelming calm to begin with, you know, which was, to be honest, pretty fucking cool.
Right.
But it left me in a cloud the entire day just from one pill, and it just I didn't like it. And if that's the way that I would function taking drugs, I might have picked a different kind.
Right.
Because that did not appeal to me one way or the other.
There's a whole variety. Trust me, I know.
Right. So I would have had choices. I realize that, but again, I picked one thing, Lord Alcohol, and I did that one really well. So. But the idea there, and I do know, and I think that the slang term is, you know, I've heard, you know, California sober or something like that, where people are supposed to be, you know, so I've heard those terms. But so if it is, whether it's let's say if it's I don't know, somebody's got cancer, they've got glaucoma, it's a medical thing. Some people have done it for anxiety or depression, and so that was that listener's question, but also the podcast thing. So this dude was sober, as far as he had a problem with alcohol, and he did smoke weed while he was drinking, but actually used less, and it was prescription. But after he, you know, obviously got sober on an alcohol level, so they went through. It was an interesting story he had, but I just wanted your opinion. I think I know how some of our hardcore folks, and especially in Cleveland, would feel about it. But if it's prescribed, you know, I mean, I don't know. So opinions?
Well, my opinion. Let's see here. That one of the times I was attempting sobriety a long time ago, I did do the marijuana maintenance program. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing any other drugs. I was just smoking pot, and not a lot of it. I'd smoke a bowl in the morning, and I'd smoke a bowl after work, and that was it. And you know, I did pretty well there for a few months. And then if you listen to my story, I met a girl, and while I was on the marijuana maintenance, and I started shooting heroin. So that's my experience. I can't do anything. You know, I could say, if I smoke pot, I'm going to get cotton mouth, which is going to make me thirsty, which means I'm going to drink, which means I will shoot heroin. And I'll probably smoke a little crack in there too.
Well, yeah, you got to even it out. Like you said, you've got choices, right?
Right, absolutely. You know, cocktails, man. Right. You know, prescribed. I mean, I could be prescribed Oxycontin, and you know, that's the same as doing heroin. Prescriptions, I have to be very careful of what I put into my body, because I know I will abuse anything I put into my body. And I just rather not. So, again, it's everything. It's, the same attitude I have about drinking, about religion, about everything else. Certain things work for me, certain things don't. And I know that I can't put any mood or mind altering substance in my body because it's never going to be enough. I'm always going to want more. And that's going to lead me to do things that hurt the people around me, period. But if somebody else can do it, cool. God bless you, man. I can't.
Yeah, and I mean that you and I are the same opinion with that. I mean, if somebody has to take anything by prescription, I'm not going to look at them a weird way, depending on again what it's fixing, and because we had talked about that, our friends and our friend Ben and people who have had surgeries and have to take pain medication. That's prescribed medication. But I mean, we talked about the dental things too, and all these places, Vicodin or Oxy or whatever they give out for pain. I'm like, Tylenol, or ibuprofen. I mean, it all worked for me. I didn't need to take anything like that because I would personally, I'd be afraid to do anything like that. So once again, I mean, I guess the main point is that we're not necessarily looking at it as a bad thing if it's prescribed, but I think you and I are kind of like, we're not going to do something like
that. No, okay. I can't. Right. Because I won't stop.
It's funny, and that just reminded me of what you said, and I forgot about that in your story when you talked about that, met the girl and stuff. It reminded me of my dad told me a story one time, and this was, God, I didn't even remember how young I was. I was probably a teenager. Of course, he was sober at the time he told me this story, but somehow we got in this conversation of drugs, or specifically weed. And I don't know if I asked him if he had ever smoked pot. And he goes, he goes, it didn't do anything for me. And I'm like, what do you mean it didn't do anything for you? So he tells me this story, and it's, he's in the depths of his drinking, and he was a huge vodka drinker, but also drank whiskey and pretty much whatever he could pour down his throat, but vodka was the thing. So he and my mom had been divorced for a while, and he's not with anyone. So I met somebody, or I was dating somebody, whatever the deal was. And he was over at this chick's place, and she's like, hey, you want to get high? And he's like, you got any vodka? She's like, no, man, let's get high. So he's like, fuck it, I'll try it. He's one of those, same thing. Right. I'll try anything,
Right.
So the way he told the story was they were sitting there smoking, and she'd take a hit, give it to him, he'd take a hit, and then she's like, isn't that wild? And in his head, he's like, I don't feel shit, Right. So he takes a bigger drag, gives it back to her. She's doing the same thing the whole time. Isn't that great? Isn't this good stuff? Isn't it wild? He's like, fuck. He said he finally had enough of it, and he left so he could go to the bar and drink.
Right.
Which I that just popped into my head, but it didn't do anything for him. So he tried, and maybe that would have been my experience. I don't know. It as of today, I'm glad I don't have to try to figure that out. So
right, yeah, and I mean, I was a huge pot smoker for a long time, and again, like everything else, if I could do it without consequences, I would love to. I would love to get off work, sit back, take a few hits of some good dope, and just chill out. It would be great, but I know it wouldn't be enough. I know I can't do that like a normal person. Just like a normal person can have a beer or two.
Right. Yeah, and that's so kind of, and what's funny is I forget who I was talking with. I brought it up. I was talking to my son about that, talking to Derek about that. But Dawn used to do that. We'd be in a restaurant, bar, whatever, and we'd be heading out, and she'd like still have half a drink, and I say to her, I'm like, are you gonna leave that? She's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm fine. We can go. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I said, you know what? I'll drink it. So I did. And Derek said, he goes, yeah, she still does that. He goes, Corey will drink the rest of her drink if she does that. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's still to this day, watching movies or TV shows, I notice that every time. I've noticed people, they walk into a bar, they sit down with somebody, they each order a drink, they get in some talk, and then dude walks out without even taking a sip of his beer, and he's walking away right out of the scene, and I'm still staring at the beer going, dude, you left beer.
Right?
What's that?
So what the hell's wrong with you?
I know. Yeah. It just, again, doesn't make sense to me, but hey, to each his own, right? These fucking normal people. All right. So another thought that came into my mind, it has to do with the move and everything like that. Well, actually, two things on that. But what do you think out of, and you got 12 years to choose from, but do you think there was a specific year that was more monumental than others? Maybe a year that you're like, this is, looking back now, saying this was the year I had the most change, or whatever it is. Do you know anything stick out like that?
Well, I mean, obviously the first year, that's that was the biggest change. I'd been sober for a year. Never happened before.
Right.
Yeah, and the biggest change, and working the steps and getting those first 5 done in the first year. The first year, the second year, certainly getting more into the groove and the routine. But no, one day at a time, I can't say a year, it's moments, man. It's all moments. And there's been monumental moments and there's been mundane moments. It's life, but yeah, biggest change surely was the first year, learning how to actually do this thing, and accomplishing getting that year under my belt.
Yeah, and it was more curiosity, because when I was thinking about, I thought about when, and I didn't really have an answer for this. It just made me think about the changes in my program. For instance, when I moved from Ohio to Wisconsin, and being on my own and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know if that was monumental, but that was kind of a big deal, because
Sure.
That was the first time that I had lived by myself sober. And I remember walking into that apartment for the first time. It's like that first night after the move, and my son had taken my son back, whatever it was, and everyone's gone. And it felt really weird.
Right.
I suppose probably uncomfortable, I guess, if I think about it now. But I don't know if that was monumental change or if it was just, growth, or I don't even know what it was. But
right.
And that was the second part of that question was, or do you think you even had one? And so you answered the question. The first year I figured would be the obvious for both of us. And I mean,
right.
no doubt. Because I mean, that's when, and I think that the second year, because I remember my sponsor telling me at that point, he's like, yeah, there's no more excuses. He goes, you've been through every circumstance, every day of the year, now get busy. After that first year, get busy, so
yeah.
I just thought that was, but he was right, because at that point you're like, all right. I think that's when a lot of people, going back to when we were talking about the whole pink cloud thing, that's I think when that pink cloud tends to get blown up, because it's just life now. It's not you.
Right.
Not that you're not. I mean, I love every anniversary. I love every year. I love the accomplishments. I love the growth and everything else that we've been able to experience. But but truly looking forward to that first year was that was a whole different type of, I don't know, excitement, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's funny you talked about going to that first apartment and being there by yourself. I remember when I moved out of our place into that house by myself, and really the first month or so, I really didn't spend very much time in the rest of the house. I spent pretty much all my time in my bedroom in that house, because that was even just having a living room to myself and having a dining room to myself, a second bedroom to myself, and all of that. It was too big. They talk about how small our world gets, when we're out there doing our thing, and just having more space around me was kind of difficult. I wasn't ready to have an entire house to myself. So, clearly you've been to my house now. I've got plenty of space and I utilize most of it.
Right. And it is funny because I remember when you and I first moved in together, and like you would describe that place, and it was exactly what you said. Again, to begin with, I had these big ideas about where I thought we should live and whatever the case was, but you are correct. I mean, that place was perfect for us. I mean, again, really small living room, smallish kitchen. The bedrooms they're huge,
Right.
And we did. I remember it, whether it was family member or friends or things like that. That they're like, oh, you guys hang out and watch TV together. We're like, fuck no.
Nope. We had just spent a year living in a bedroom together. No.
Well, and the funny thing, if you remember, there was only one comfortable chair in that living room.
Right.
The other one wasn't the other one a lawn chair?
Yes, it was.
So there were a couple of times when one of us was sitting out there watching TV, and the other one would come in and we'd sit there and have a quick conversation, but then one of us is sitting there in this freaking lawn chair. It's
Right.
like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna go in my bedroom, I think.
Yep.
But I guess I never thought about that too, because I mean, that first apartment I was in, it is 2-bedroom. Even the one I just moved out of was 2-bedroom. But I spent the majority of the time I spent in both of those places was probably just in the living room, because that's where the TV was, and of course sleeping, in the bedroom. But yeah, it is kind of funny. I didn't think about that, because spending all that time in just our bedroom or bedrooms.
Right.
So, and what's kind of funny is that almost answers the next question that I wrote down. I think that this is like the third week in a row as I've been asking these questions. Your thought jumps ahead to like the next thing I had written down. Seriously, and this is exactly what I've written down. Finding your identity either when you're newly sober or when you make a major move. And you just answered that. You were bedroom boy when you first moved.
I was.
But
I was uncomfortable having too much space. I wasn't used to it.
So do you think in what I was thinking about, so when when I moved back to in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin move was the biggest one, because being on my own and being in my own place and new job and all these different things. And not that I had never been to Madison before, but I didn't move there knowing anyone. My son was in Germantown. I knew people back there. That was fine. But it really was, I mean, trying to find, I found meetings and I got to know people and that sort of thing. But, it's just almost like I felt almost like, I don't know, a fish out of water. I hate that saying, but it's kind of what it is, and even with this one too, like moving down here, and obviously, I mean, I've been to Kathy's house plenty of times, and it's super comfortable. It's a super safe place to be. But I thought about that the other day. It's just, again, trying to find. Now I'm not really bedroom boy anymore, but this is my space. I work in here. I sleep in here. I mean, I just set up my TV and stuff in here, but I haven't spent a lot of time in here. But so I have my own space, but it's no longer this my own space. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I know Kathy's going to listen to this, but it's a matter of just, again, finding, because I don't have a home. I'm homeless,
Right.
Not by it is by choice. And I came down here, it's not that I can't afford to live on my own, but I came down here with a purpose. But it's just I don't know, again, I hate the saying, but almost a fish out of water, trying to get my feet under me type of thing, and working remote and all those different things. It's been an odd week that way. And I'm not uncomfortable at all, but it just kind of popped into my head, because it's, now, other thing that popped into my head is completely side note. Am I still a cheesehead motherfucker? I just want to know.
You will always be a cheesehead motherfucker.
Well, good. Thank you. Okay. Because if I lose that, I don't know what to do with myself. Okay,
right.
Good.
No matter where you go, no matter what you do, you will be a cheesehead motherfucker.
Okay, good. Because I was ready. We've never been in a fight before, but I was ready to fight over that one. I'm like, I'm going to give you time. I've been there. I've been here more. This is who I am. Not really, but I figured that'd be your answer. But I thought about that. I'm like, I don't want to be like, what even is Indiana? Wisconsin is cheese, but what would I be? What's Indiana? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, people have popcorn there, right?
Oh, that's the Velcro Popcorn Fest.
Yeah, it is right. The statue of Orville Rittenbacher.
Right, right. Well, I don't want to be here.
No. Although
No,
no, anyway.
you're saying I look like him? I can put on. I can put on a bow tie if you want. Look like him.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, baby.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But okay. So yeah. And like I said, it was just one of those things that kind of popped into my head about that sort of thing. So, like I said, just kind of, I don't know, just feeling out of sorts, and
sure,
just weird. But here's the other thing too on that. Though, figure I got here on Monday, and what I've been doing is every night, I mean, since probably November, I've been listening to the podcast on the way home. So,
sure.
Still, in my morning routine and my nighttime routine hasn't changed. I mean, you and I talked about that plenty. I don't care where I am, who I am. I do my readings, I do my thing, I do my prayers. That's never, knock on wood, that's never going to change. But what changed for me was the, not having that podcast. And it was, was it? Maybe it was Wednesday or Thursday. I think Wednesday night, actually, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I feel weird, and I couldn't figure out why. Then I thought about it. I listened to a couple of episodes on the drive down here on Monday. I had listened to the podcast Monday night, Tuesday night, or Wednesday night. So it was like 3 nights. It's almost like for me with my new routine, missing 3 meetings.
Sure.
And I started to feel squirrely, which is really fucking weird, but I know why. And I wasn't getting my fix.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I did was, I looked up, during the day I started to feel that way. So I looked up meetings. I was going to go try to hit a meeting. By the time I got wrapped up at work, it was like a 5:30 meeting and I didn't know where it was, but I saw that they had an online thing. I'm like, cool. I'll just, go online. It was like a big book study, whatever it was. And nice. I couldn't connect online. So I don't know, maybe it's not updated. Maybe they don't do the online meeting anymore, but I just, while I was making dinner, actually Kathy went out to dinner with a couple of friends, whatever night that was. So same thing. I just listened to another episode of the podcast, listened to like three or 4 more episodes while I was working, on Thursday, and then did the same thing, last night. So I just need, again, I didn't realize that I had gotten out of that routine, but I don't have, it was standard for me that, just get my car podcast, and the only time my car moved in the last 4 days was when I just went up to get my pizza a little while ago. So, but yeah, it was just weird. And I figured it out pretty quickly, thankfully, but seriously, to begin with, I couldn't figure out why I was getting squirrely. So yeah, it's weird. So, and I guess that makes a good point, because when, and we talk about, this being never ending and all that stuff. And once again, that was just, that was a real life example. And I'm not even going to, meetings every day and be in front of people and doing as much as I used to when we first got sober. But but I mean, that was huge, and we're 12 years and a few months sober, and a couple of months sober now. And, still, I mean, apparently I need that.
Right. I mean, my girlfriend Chris and I, we got out of Mexico for a week every December. Trust me, my meditation books go with me. I mean, I can't even fathom not starting my day that way. It's been over 11 years since I've missed a day. I missed a few my first year or so, and every day since then, that's how I start my day. I wake up when I say please, I take a leak, and then I grab my books. That's how I start my day. I need that 20 minutes, because I used to be a little grumpy in the morning. And I need that 20 minutes to just sit there and think about something good every day. And I can't imagine not starting my day that way.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing. And I mean, thankfully, at least the 24-hour book, I don't remember when I added, because you're the one that introduced me to the God Grant Me book. Right. And then the other things that I've added have been done, slowly. And I switched up a couple, but there's like total of 5 things that I do in the morning. And one of them is I look at my sobriety counter every morning, but
Mhm.
there's 4 individual little brief readings, kind of like the 24-hour book in the God Grant Me, that I do every single day.
Right.
And the same thing. Now I have all of them on my phone, and
Mhm.
that's the only thing that you and I differ on is that you've got
Right.
the actual books. And the only reason I don't have books anymore is I gave them to people. So
Right.
because at the time, and I remember one of them was somebody in Cleveland when I was still there. I gave my 24-hour book because I ended up buying a newer one because
Mhm.
my dad's his
Right.
24-hour book, but it was losing pages and stuff like that. And I put that
Mhm.
last time I saw that was probably, I don't know, a year or so ago, but I actually put it in like a Ziploc bag and put it in a box because I didn't want to get it all messed up.
Right.
So that one I gave to somebody else, or not his, but another one I gave away.
Mhm.
And then I
Right.
bought another one. And then when I was in Madison, the same thing. There was a new person. I don't remember, male or female, didn't really matter. But this individual was looking. Somebody gave this person a big book, and I said, you
Mhm.
know what? I got one more book for you. I went in my car. I had it in my glove box, and I
Mhm.
gave the person a brand new. Well, it was newish. I'd used it that much, but I gave it the 24-hour book because I'm like, I got it all on my phone.
Right.
So what I've been doing here when I get up, because it's been nice out, I go out and I sit out on the front step, and so
Mhm.
I just sit outside and do all of it, which I never did where I lived, but I did it when I stay with you. I've done it at Mom's. I've done it
Mhm.
at Johnny's when I used to be there, but I never did it where I live. But yeah, I like sitting outside. It's just it's earlier in the morning and it's peaceful, and like you
Mhm.
said, it's about 20 minutes. That's all it is. Nothing
Right.
big. So yeah, but yeah, I figured out that little routine thing really quickly. So, um, but I think we covered everything on that part. So the next thing that I had, and I know we touched on this a little bit because we talked about like the first concert and that sort of thing. And I don't have anything specific on here, and I don't even remember why this popped into my head. But do
Mhm.
you remember anything outside of going to that first concert when you were
Right.
2 months sober? Do you
Right.
remember, anything out of the ordinary, like the first time you did whatever that thing might be sober versus drinking?
Right. Um. Yeah, nothing comes to mind. I mean, well, family get together, birthday party things, stuff like that. And quite frankly, I'm still not fully comfortable doing that kind of stuff. I mean, clearly going to Kathy's for Thanksgiving, stuff like that. That's cool. But yeah, I'm just going to places where I don't know a lot of people. There's certainly they may not know my deal is it's still comfortable. Generally when I'm in those situations because I'm there because of somebody, and that's sort of what gets me there is I'm there for another person. Imagine that I'm doing something for somebody else, not just me. But yeah, I still get uncomfortable. Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. And well, and when you just said that, like when people didn't know your deal, I mean, I've over the years gone to a couple of work events and stuff like that.
Right.
Some of them I was able to avoid, but others that I couldn't, and I had to go there. And people again that didn't know my deal, and that they were in bars, or in
Mm-hmm.
in places where they had serving drinks and all that stuff. And
Sure.
say, hey, you want something to drink? I'm like, yeah, I'll grab a soda. They're like, oh, that's all you want? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I had, one guy, the director of the one company I worked for, when we went out to Arizona a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like one of the last people, my flight was one of the last ones that came in. So whatever it was, an Uber or Lyft or whatever, I took to the resort. And when I called him, the code that they gave us, the company had bought all these codes for whatever, and it didn't work. So he's like, he goes, just put it on your own app, and he goes, just fill out the form, we'll reimburse you. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
hurry up. He goes, you're behind. He goes, you're behind on whatever. You got to get caught up or whatever. He goes, we're sitting by the pool drinking. You're falling behind. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm good. And
Yeah, right.
When I
No,
got there,
I'm so fucking far ahead of you.
yeah, it's like nope. I laughed you like 7 times before you could even spell drinking.
Right, right. I laughed you
But
about fucking 12 times 10 years ago.
but when I got there, I right away I threw my stuff in my room and I walked down by where the pool was. And they're all sitting down there, all guys I knew, maybe one person that I didn't know, but like, hey, there's the hospitality suite over there. There's beer. There's whatever. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah, I'll go in there. They had snacks and all that stuff. So whatever it is, I grabbed take a couple of bags of chips and I grabbed. They had it was Arizona in the beginning of September. It was like 115 degrees. Again, dry. I mean, dry heat. There is a. What's that? You just cut out.
It's a dry heat, right?
Well, I mean, there is a difference, but there was one of the people that worked at the resort. He goes, you realize an oven's dry also. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. But I grabbed whatever they had there, Gatorade or Powerade or something. I grabbed like 3 of those and I drank them all because I was like, I don't know, whatever it was, the heat just sucked all the moisture out of me. But my the director said that he goes, don't you want a beer or something? I'm like, nah. I said I'm good. And he's like, he kind of looked at me. I'm like, yeah, I don't drink it. He goes, I didn't know you didn't drink. I'm like, yeah, and I just left it, you know. But yeah, it was a little weird because same thing going out to restaurants and things like that. We had events the 3 nights that we were there, so it was weird, you know. But it made me think about it too, just as I was talking about that, you know, like and I know I talked about it. I think I mentioned it briefly the one time, but I don't know if we've really talked about it. But you know, think about like I don't know, going out on a date for the first time. I mean, I can't remember the first time or the last time that I would have been high school. I think the last time that I would have been, you know, in any type of a dating situation where I didn't at least have a couple of drinks in me. That was weird, you know, to begin with, because, you know, it does. I mean, it's, you know, you're in a bar, you're whatever, you're all loosened up, you know, the liquid courage and whatever the case is. But yeah, I just and like I said, I honestly didn't have anything specific in mind, but I seriously don't even know why it popped into my head. But I think your concert story, I think, was about the best one because you were so new.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, I know what I wanted to kind of bring up. So today is the 11th. Is it? Yeah, 11th anniversary of when my stepdad passed away. So July 1st of 2011. And the thing that popped into my head this morning, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, well, 2 things, is that the way that I reacted when my dad died versus when he died, totally different. And of course I know why, but I think there was such a huge contrast to it. And I guess, again, just a testament to what this program can do. Because I mean, I had no coping skills or anything like that when my dad died, and you know, literally was already a raging alcoholic, but went off the rails and ended up in, you know, detox, you know, 33 days later. But when my stepdad died, though, I mean, again, I know I mentioned it probably in my story, and I think I mentioned one other time. They were 2. I mean, I don't want to say polar opposites, but very, very different men. I mean, very different men. My dad and I had our ups and downs. There was years, and I'm talking years when we didn't talk, and we had those ups and downs. But thankfully, the last, I don't know, 4.5 years, we were on good terms. And my stepdad and I had our disagreements over the years, but he was always a constant in my life. But again, he was in my life for 30 years, you know. So I loved and cared about each of them in different ways, but it was the same amount of love and caring for both of them. So I just, to let everyone know that the reason I didn't freak out as much when my stepdad died is because it's not that it didn't hurt. It's because I had the tools now, a year and, you know, 2 months worth of tools, you know, to be able to deal with that and to be able to be there for my mom and the rest of my family. And also, which I've said this to other people, and I think some people may not really understand this, but to actually, I don't even want to say enjoy is the wrong way to put it, but experience the full grieving process and be done with it, you know? And it took 9 months for me to get over my dad's death. And, you know, I miss my stepdad, but I was able to process that whole thing. So did you have, I don't remember, you know, if you've had situations like that, you know, that were prior to and after, either when people passed or were in, I don't know, you know, dire situations and how you dealt with them. Did you have anything like that? I don't recall.
Well, prior, I can give you my daughter's great grandmother was a big part of our lives. When my daughter's mom was pregnant with her, we stayed with her grandmother for a while. Um, Alice was her name. She was a big part of everybody's life. We were actually living here in Ohio at the time. And when she passed out in California, and we went back for the funeral, and I was drunk the entire time. Um, I was pallbearer. Thank God I didn't drop anything. But I was hammered the whole time. Um, yeah, didn't handle it well at all. Got through it. Didn't make a complete ass of myself. Too bad. Not during the ceremonies anyway. There was we were there for a few days. There was a couple times at night. Yeah, but yeah, that was and after I got sober, everybody was pretty much gone by the time I got sober. My girlfriend's dad just passed away. It's coming up on a month or so now ago. But again, got to be there, be present, be there for other people. And thankfully, they taught us that 90% of it is showing up, just being there. I can do that today. I can show up, I can be there, I can hold hands. I can't fix anything, but I can be there and be supportive. And that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, and I mean that was the same thing. I mean, with my again when my dad died, I told that whole story, and I don't need to recap it all. But I was not present. I did not help. I was. I
Right.
consider myself to be I was a burden through that entire situation.
Right.
Whereas again, from and my stepdad, completely different story, and then we've had, two grandmothers pass within that time frame. We had uncle pass. We've had,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to think. I mean, there was a string of people there that were tough, tough to deal
Right.
with, and but the same deal, you're there for other people. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just and as it comes up with with my dad's anniversary every year of his death, and same thing with Larry, it's just it's always things that I think about, and both of those guys, both of them are in my prayers every single day, morning and night. So
Right.
I continue to keep them in my thoughts, but also, I guess maybe it's just continue to process, because we all heard the anniversary of my dad this year. That just that kicked my ass for some reason. I have no idea
Mm-hmm.
why, but still, that's been it was March. I still don't know what the hell happened with that, but I'm not worried about it because I'm like, it is
Right.
what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that I had written down, and this is, and that you'll probably laugh at this because I probably done this, maybe 2 days ago, for God's sakes. But do you remember the last time that you tried to like force something to happen? Like, again, we all know supposed to be somebody else's will, but whether it
Mm-hmm.
be same thing, all the typicals, job, relationship, whatever it is. Do you remember anything specific the last time that you tried to force something to happen?
Not specifically, but because I generally don't anymore. um, yeah, but I know for a fact when I do try to force it, it turns to shit. And everything that's good in my life has happened organically and when it was supposed to. No, I really don't. I can't think of anything specifically.
Yeah, and I really don't have like a specific, because I do it all the time. It doesn't even matter what it is. I mean, everything that, and it's something I fight, and it's so stupid because I know it. And the same thing, whether it's been a relationship, a job situation, and that
Mm-hmm.
it goes all the way back to my daughter. Oh, you know what? The first time, and it just popped into my head. So we were still in the Keating Center, and I had when we first got sober, I had a Motorola Razr flip phone, which, by the way, the old school Motorola Razr flip phones are pretty cool. I mean, at that time, it was I liked it. I really did. It was a nice looking phone. But I got it refurbished, and it was to the point where it's probably the end of that first summer. And I remember where I'm like, I wanted to get a new phone because my son and I wanted to be able to send a text if I could. And you remember how long did you have the phone where you had a regular that you didn't have a smartphone? I used to tease you every time you were texting.
Right. Yeah, it was, yeah. I had no mama phone. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was probably about a year and a half sober before I got my first smartphone, maybe closer to 2 years.
I just remember we'd be someplace that all of a sudden you're like boop 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 boop, boop. And then that's like 3 letters.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But so I wanted to get a smartphone, and that's when obviously iPhones and all that stuff were not super new, but they were new enough and obviously really popular. And I remember actually talking to mom and talking to Kathy about it. I don't think I brought it up to my sponsor, but the point is that I felt guilty about even thinking about spending money at that time, to get an iPhone, so I'm like, is this a luxury or is this a need? So mom and I went to whatever store, at whoever AT&T store, probably who I had at the time.
Right.
Because I basically I don't want to say got everyone's blessing, but everyone talked about it. And we pros and cons type of thing. So it was just, I felt comfortable doing it. And I knew I could afford it. So I remember mom and I went down to the store. And I called first to make sure that they had it, and whoever I talked to on the phone said they did. So I get there, and whatever phone it was, they're like, "Oh yeah, these are on back order for like 3 weeks." And we're like, "Really?" Call the phone. They said they had this. Like, no, that was a mistake. And they're like, "Yeah, most stores are out of them." And I remember walking out of the store, and mom's like, "Okay, let's go back to the house. We're going to make a couple of phone calls. We'll find you one, this and that." And right at that moment, it was nothing that she said. But I'm like, I just told her, I said, I can't. I said, no. I said, I'm good. She's like, what do you mean? Don't you want the phone? I said, of course I do. But it was this, again, we were so new, and they had told us don't push things. And the first thing, it was a freaking phone. And I didn't get one. I ended up, I think like a couple of weeks later, I ended up getting that first little slider phone that I had, smartphone. And then I got an iPhone later when that one broke. But the whole point is I had this, I didn't want to force it. So what the fuck happened to that guy? That just occurred to me as I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this great story. I want to push things. Then I thought, I'm like, what happened to that guy?
Right.
Because I try to force every goddamn thing. I'm so impatient about everything, and I mean, you've been one to, that's why I talk to people most of the time before I do stuff, because I know better, but yeah, just, I don't know. I don't even know again what made or what made me think about that. But yeah, and again, I can't think about anything specific. All I knew is that I do it all the time. I know I do it all the time.
Sure.
So
I know you do too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And here's the funny part. I was just messaging with somebody on Instagram the other day, and I don't know if I think she just started. She wanted to order a shirt, and I was thanking her on that. And then she was saying something, and I mentioned something about what you and I talk about. And then it came up to the fact that that you and I, I mean, where we met and all that stuff. I told her, I'm like, go listen to the podcast. She got to listen to this. I'm like, on top of that, I'm like, we've never fought, because anything that we say, we came from the same background, and neither one of us, I mean, of course, both of us are dicks at times, but more, not really to each other though. Isn't that shocking?
Right. Yeah, well, because we know, I know what I'm capable of, and I know what you're capable of, and neither one of us need that kind of fucking hassle in our lives.
It's like either one of us is the cop that pulls up next to you on the highway, and you sit up straight with both hands on the wheel, like, ooh, I'm not doing anything wrong here. All right. So the last thing, and I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily want to get, I don't even know, this probably wouldn't be like a huge conversation. It was just a curiosity, kind of an outside type of thing. And I think you and I are probably on the same page with this stuff, but there's a lot of shit going on, with current events. And there has been from the day we got sober till now, maybe a lot more shit now that's going on, over the last couple of years with all this different stuff. But how much, and I don't even know if you and I have ever talked about this, but how focused are you, or how much time do you spend focusing on current events?
Very, very little.
Okay.
Yeah, quite frankly, I turn on the news radio station in the morning to get traffic reports every 10 minutes when I'm out driving, when I'm working. So I kind of have to get, what's going on in the world, and I don't pay very much attention to it because you know what, I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do about it, and quite frankly, 98% of it doesn't fucking affect me, unless I let it. That 2%, yes, gas costs more now. My groceries cost a little more. But other than that, none of that shit affects me unless I let it. So I don't let it.
Yeah, and that in years ago, and I was going to say, because it just made me think about it, that it's been obviously since we got sober. So I haven't watched, unless it's been literally by accident, if I happen to be with somebody or walk into somebody's house or walk into a room that has local news on it. I haven't watched a local newscast. I don't even know when. I mean, it's been so long, I don't even recall. But what I did was when I first got on Facebook, so that would have been, again, February of 2011. And what I did is I liked a certain number of pages, like it was a local TV station. And I did go with like Fox News and CNN and International Business Times, things like that. So because there's certain websites that you've got to read like 3 different things to figure out exactly what's happening,
Sure.
and pick out the truth in all of them. But so at least I know kind of what's going on. I'm not walking around in a bubble, but the same deal, and you and I have talked individually about some really deep things, things that are going on. And that's the one thing that, and the reason I brought it up is there was a, and I'm not even going to get specific about it, but there was an individual that has a podcast that I hadn't seen. I follow this individual, and I knew this individual was not part or doing like actively the podcast or whatever it was. I hadn't seen this individual in a while, and the person popped up within the last, I'm just going to say within the last 6 months, because I don't want to pinpoint anything that this person was talking about, but specifically got on and had this post on Instagram, this video about how outraged this individual was about this thing that was going on. And the first thing I thought about, I'm like, we haven't seen you in this. Why are you doing that? Then I start thinking that there was, an ulterior motive, and this is going to maybe get more people to follow. And that's why, I mean, you and I, again, we talk about this stuff, and I think we're both on the same page. We have no desire to talk about these topics. We'll talk about things that, like you just said, affect us. But man, every once in a while people ask me, like, hey, did you see this about this or hear about this? I'm like, I know roughly what's going on, but man, I'm not digging too deep into it, because two things, it probably just stressed me out, not because it would stress me out on a life standpoint, but I don't want to get in an argument with somebody,
No.
And that's probably what's going to happen. It was funny, the radio station, the morning show that I listened to in Milwaukee, they said that they said this for probably 30 years. They said that if all people in the world were the same color hair, same height, same weight, same this, same that, they would still fight.
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, it's kind of funny, because you take that's why they always tell you that you're not supposed to talk about politics and religion, because even to get somebody on the same side of the fence, we're gonna have different views,
Oh yeah. Well, those people that live up in the hills, we live down in the valley. They're different. They're wrong because they live up in the hills. That's the way humans are, and I try not to be that way anymore.
Right. But it was just, and I figured you and I were on the same page, but I wanted to bring it up for 2 reasons, just out of curiosity, but on top of that too, to let everyone know out there that Mike and I, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think we just said the same thing. Mike and I are not going to get into. It's not that we don't care about what's going on in today's society and how it affects people who follow us, people we love and care about, and that sort of thing. But in my opinion, and I think in Mike's opinion too, this is not the place that we're going to talk about it.
No.
Because this is about. I suppose if somebody, like we talked about, people wanting to, take away the word alcoholic and stuff like that. Now that affects us, so we're going to talk about it.
Well, we have no opinion on outside issues.
I was actually waiting for you. I had that teed up over here for about 5 minutes. You almost disappointed me, but thank you for coming to bringing that one around. So you know what? Here's the other thing that surprises me, because when I was joking around about being in Indiana, I was going to say that it popped into my head, and then I forgot that. What was it? The last couple of weeks, the people with the fireworks. This is literally when they should be going fucking crazy in your neighborhood. I've heard nothing. I'm disappointed. No fireworks.
I know. Well, it was raining pretty bad. It's just stopped about 20 minutes ago. So I'm sure they're going to wind it up here soon. The sun's just about going down, and I'm sure they're going to start blowing shit up here any minute now.
But yeah, that makes sense, because it poured like crazy here this afternoon, and it moved out pretty quickly. So yeah, you guys probably got the same thing. Oh, when is that? When's that golf outing? Is that the one that we're gonna hand out more cards to? Do you remember when that is?
The new one? No, I don't remember. I'll find out.
But it's one. Okay, because I when I was packing up all my shit, and I wanted to say it out loud, but I have it in the drawer, and I said those business cards, the rest of our cards, I have to give to you to take back. So
clearly it's I would say it's in August, because Megan was very aware that I was going to be hooking up with you at the end of July to get them. Right. So after that. Again, I don't worry about things that I can't control and that don't affect me.
Right. Yeah. It just that popped into my head. So yeah, I've got them sitting aside for us too. So yeah, we'll spread more sober, not mature cheer around the Cleveland area.
We will.
So yeah, look at that. God, the last time I looked, I'm not facing where my phone was, but we're at an hour 2 already, and I think I actually pretty much covered all the things that I had written on here. And I know you don't have anything else, so I'm not even going to ask you, but so not anything new, but anything that other than your normal stuff that you have to like wrap up with.
No, like I said, I'm going to have some more work tomorrow. I'm going to go hang out with a bunch of drunks and junkies and crackheads tomorrow, and it's going to be a good damn time. We haven't done that in a while.
Where are you going tomorrow?
Marty and Michelle's. They're having their birthday, 4th of July / Breeze 10th anniversary / whatever. Getting together.
Yeah, and I forgot about that, because when I first looked at it, I was thinking that'd be a great thing to come back. But then I looked and I'm like, oh shit, that's like the weekend after.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I need to get I'm still not. This room is crazy. I got Kathy's living room full of stuff, and but yeah. Plus, I think we're gonna hang out with Mom on I think on Monday for sure. We'll probably go over there on Saturday, do some stuff. But yeah, so a little rest and relaxation. But tell everyone I said hi, and tell everyone that they need to start listening. I've seen none of them. Tell them if they don't, we're going to disown them.
All right. But that would be a lie.
I know, but let's see if they believe us.
Fucking do that, and they wouldn't believe me. They know us too well.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Right.
We keep.
They know we're stuck with them, and we're stuck with them, and yeah, they're stuck with us, and right.
We'll just keep coming around like lost puppies, anyhow. So.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, I think that we got it all covered. So, yeah, one or the other. Obviously, tell everyone tomorrow I said hi, and then it is your time to wrap this shit up.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Have a safe 4th of July. Don't blow any fingers off. Give us a 5-star rating, buy a t-shirt, buy us a cup of coffee, and as always, fuck off.
Yes, as always. All right, brother. I love you, and I will talk to you soon.
Love you too. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.